All right, so I gave you the story of our family moving here and me choosing to focus on all the negative things. The lessons that I learned, number one, the more I focused on the negative aspects of the move and of our time here, the larger that became and the more consuming that became. And the other lesson that I learned is I was not aware of how much I was outwardly projecting that negativity and that negative vibe and that negative emotion towards everybody in my orbit, even when I wasn't directly complaining or directly talking about it. Just the fact that I was choosing to exist in a largely negative mindset, that just projected outward. And something as simple as dropping a slice of apple on the floor, would just make me mad. So that is a very valuable lesson, to be aware of that and to acknowledge that. And the advice that I would give, and I wrote this down just so I wouldn't stumble my way through it any more than the rest of this podcast, is it's recognize the problem, right? It's okay if you're upset about something. That's what we tell our daughter. Hey, it's okay to be upset. It's okay to feel how you feel. The goal here, obviously, is to work through that so that the next time it's a little bit easier to manage, and next time and next time and next time. But what I've tried to ask myself is, can I fix the problem? So, for example, if I am that unhappy with my job, which I'm not, but as an example, if I was that unhappy about my job, I could try to fix the problem by applying for new jobs and maybe changing my career or changing my job. Technically, something like that, I do have some amount of control over. So I can choose to fix the problem. And if I can't fix the problem, then the option is to fix my attitude. And that is easier said than done. I can see it for what it is. I can realize that it might be part of my life for a little bit or a long bit. And I can adjust the way that I manage that emotion or manage that emotionally, and realize that at some point I have to get rid of the grinding my teeth and wringing of my hands and just move on with the rest of my life. So I gave you the 3 mini stories: the person, the place, and the thing of the idea of time to pruning the tree. And the lesson is, once you get to be a certain age and you start to look at your life, if you're willing to step back and examine, it might be harder to identify all the things that you do want out of life, but it's probably pretty easy to identify 1 or 2 or 3 things that you're okay with removing from your life or having a little bit less of in your life. And the advice that I would give to pruning the tree is, if it's something that is not adding value in your life, and get rid of it. And I'm not talking about paying bills or taxes, because that would be easy to do. But when it comes to anything with its friends, people, places, things, right? Any of those things, if they're not adding value, get rid of it. If you have relationships with people and they're always canceling on you, or every time you get together, you leave and you didn't have a great time, or when you're not together, they're talking shit about you, or whatever the case is, you don't need that in your life. You're better off with 0 friends than 2 friends that function that way. When it comes to places, if you've got places that you visit or restaurants. I remember there was a restaurant that our family used to go to. I can't remember the name of it, but it was in the DFW area. And we went there like 4 times. And like the first time we went there, it wasn't very good. The second time we went there, it was a little bit better. And the third time we went there, it was really bad. And I'm thinking, why the hell do we keep going here? Like, I am all for wanting to give a second chance, especially to a place like a restaurant, because you never know, from someone who used to cook, you never know what's going on behind the scenes that could contribute to maybe a less than stellar one-time experience. But to repeat and constantly go back to the same places that are just not doing it for you, get rid of it, prune the tree. And the same with things. If there's material things in your life that are not adding value, then stop wasting your money on them. For me, cigars, there's no reason I needed to be spending, $20 to $30 a week or more on cigars, and then double that with having extra bourbon around the house or extra wine around the house and doing all that. Again, not saying that you can't enjoy that stuff, not saying that you can't have that as part of your life and inside of your orbit. That's great. But having a balance and understanding where that fits in your life. And I needed to prune the tree. I didn't need to chop that tree down, just pruned it a little bit, took a few branches out and gave it a little less water. And it's okay. I feel like I pulled back into a better balance of being able to enjoy those things without. So the advice that I would go back and give myself when I was spending money I didn't have on cars and clothes and watches I couldn't afford. And the advice I'll share with my daughter, and the advice maybe can be helpful for anybody listening, is a question actually. And the question is, where do you place your value? And at the end of the day, what things do we actually place value on? I mean, I've talked about this before, but if everything was stripped away, what would actually be important to you or to me? Is it likes on social media? Is it a woman or a man smiling at you from across the bar? Is it people at work telling you what a great job you did on some project? Are those the things that matter? Is it somebody thinking that you have a cool car? All right, so I talked to you about the story of the nail in the head and me trying to solve my wife's workout schedule problem. The lesson that I would go back and give myself, and that I'm hopefully can share with other people, is that just because we think that we are able to solve a problem, that might not be what the other person is looking for. And asking them, hey, do you want to be just to listen to right now? Do you want some help? Is this a problem that you want help with? What do you need from me? And I understand that there's a potential debate of adding the mental load to that by asking the question, but I think that is a concession that the other person needs to be willing to make. Hey, I just need to vent for a minute, or hey, I've got a problem. I need your help solving it. Okay, that's great. Now I know what space to play in, and now I know what mode to be in. Now, the advice I would give is kind of in line with that. And my good friend Hoyt always says, seek first to understand rather than to be understood. How's that for an Instagram quote? Woo! I can just see the likes racking up. Put some powerful music behind it, right? And have somebody famous say it. Man, guaranteed. So seek first to understand rather than to be understood. And again, it goes back to the lesson of understanding what is needed of you. And as guys, we kind of want to rush in and save the day. I know that if there's anything that I can do for my wife or my mom or my daughter to help make their day easier or better, or one little thing can be removed, then I'm going to try to do it. And that comes from a place of love and wanting to help and wanting to support. But it also might be overkill. It might be overcompensation. And when there's conversations that are happening back and forth, the focus needs to be on what is needed from that person in order to make the conversation be what it should be for the person that's having the conversation. It's a really confusing way to say it, but I really need to focus on paying attention to what my wife needs in that moment, in that conversation, in that situation, instead of trying to bulldoze with what I think is going to be the answer to everything or the solution to everything. Is just pausing and taking a minute to listen to what is needed of me and then respond in kind.